Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Iowa soccer supporters. I'm Ben Brackett, your Kick It Forward Soccer Talk co-host, standing next to my good buddy Blake Sievers. Siebes, what's up?
I'm not going to say good morning because I'm getting a little chilled, but morning.
Yes, indeed. This is probably a first for us is this our 6th, 7th year covering the state tournament? First time we've had like cool and rainy as a weather forecast. Weatherman, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was coming, right? I looked yesterday, and the chances were 99% of it raining, and it dropped last night to 98. So it was coming no matter what, and it wasn't too bad for the first two games of 1A, but as those ended and the other half of the bracket kicked off, it's changed.
Yeah, well, let's we'll be monitoring the weather all day. And hopefully it doesn't shut us down here at any point, but we'll be here as long as we can.
Yeah, so this one might be a little different than normal, but we're going to cover the first two games of 1A as the second round is kicking off because, like you said, Ben, we're not sure what's going to happen, so we at least want to get this out.
Yeah, and also unique format for the girls where basically you've got two fields going all day, so it's like 10 o'clock and 10:15, they stagger them a little bit, and then an hour and a half later they start again. Stagger them a little bit. So, long day, but also a very great day of soccer. So, let's talk about those first matchups, Siebes.
Yeah, so Denver kicked off as the 1 seed, undefeated, back in the state tournament again against Underwood. They go up 1-0. Underwood comes back, ties 1-1, and it gets a little dicey, but as the game went on, Denver scored a second, scored a really, really good goal on the third, a little set piece, as the mates like to say, straight from the training ground, mate. A good little play. Scored it 3-1, and then the game was over there in the second half. It went up. I think they went up 4-1, and then became 4-2, 5-2, 5-3, but they had it in control there in the second half, and there's a reason why they are undefeated.
Well, it's going to be an interesting second round or semifinal matchup for the Little Cyclones. They'll take on Hudson, who I would say sort of dismantled Boyne Christian. It was 5-2, but at a certain point it was 5-0, I believe, and so the Lions kind of clawing back a couple consolation goals as the weather continued to rage on here. It's made for some interesting play. I got to believe that these teams, they're playing on grass now, right? So that, and then so they're not, they're used to the turf. But then the rain is a whole other thing, especially when you're playing on the grass.
Yeah, you're right. So yeah, we do. They got a rematch in the 1A semifinal, the top half of the bracket. Earlier this season, Denver beat Hudson 2-0, and Denver's out for revenge because they lost in the final last year. Hudson's out for revenge because they lost to Denver earlier this season.
Be a good matchup. Interesting little nugget. Speaking of Denver, their only blemish on the year is the 2-2 draw to Nevada, who is the number 6 seed on the opposite side of the bracket. So I just thought that was kind of interesting.
That is an interesting nugget.
Thank you. Well, we'll move on and we're going to go watch the rest of these games. And
let's get up to the other half of the bracket next.
Okay, now we're back to talk about the bottom half of the 1A girls bracket here at the Lead Recreation Facility here in Ames, Iowa. We had the number 2 Bishop Heelan taking on the Center Point Urbana Storm and Pointers, and then Davenport Assumption taking on the Nevada, the Cubs. Here on the field straight behind us. Blake, what'd you think? You've been on it today.
Yeah, here's our YouTube plug as well. If you haven't tuned in yet, we're surprising you with the guest for the second half of the 1A pod. So I'll let you introduce Big West, but
I'm sorry.
I don't know. It's
you've just appeared in the middle of
us. Yeah, I love it.
Who's this guy?
We got Weston McPhee joining us. He's your coach, the coach at Grinnell on the boys' side, one of the assistants there, and then also newly back in the club soccer game, coaching for UFA. But also you've coached a lot of girls soccer in the past few years, so you're pretty familiar with a lot of the players this week and teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what'd you think so far this morning?
I say we kind of continued the goals, didn't we, from the first two games?
Big time.
I don't know, Bishop Heelan 3-0 over Center Point, Urbana. White up top for Bishop Heelan. The Drake commit is causing big problems, and I think Lindsay and Kevin will be happy because she did well today.
You kind of had your eyes on this other game too, Wes. What'd you think?
Yeah, Assumption really dominated most of the game. It ended up 5-1. This second half really poured on the goals, and the last probably 30 minutes they scored 3, and you could just tell that Nevada just worked themselves tired. I know it's soppy out here, and their back line was just working and working. I think they just got a little worn down, and Assumption pounced on them.
Blake, what would you say about the fields today? How are they looking after 4 games?
They're all right so far. The one thing I did notice where the linos run up and down is not good. Obviously, they've run there now for 2 full games in a row. Interesting. One, they don't switch it, right? They would never probably go reverse diagonal, the referees.
No problem.
But I don't know. I might start pinching, stepping on the field or stepping off it when the ball is not. If I could just steal a yard or a half yard.
Yeah, it could be slick if they're not.
But otherwise, the fields obviously, other than the grass being long, the fields are holding up currently. The weather's not. The temperature is dropping. We're wet. Wind has picked up, so it has gotten colder. We talked about it briefly, Ben. The first 2 games there in 1A, Denver against Underwood and Des Moines Christian Hudson, brought the crowds. It was very sparse for the second round, but
I assume a lot of that has to do with the travel. But
yeah,
you did have Nevada as the virtually home squad.
Yep.
But fair enough. So you've got Denver. They'll take on Hudson on the top half of the bracket. Bishop Heelan will take on Davenport Assumption on the bottom half of the bracket. Any predictions, Wes? Since we didn't get your prediction the other day.
Assumption looks very potent in attack. I didn't get to see much of them defend at all, but they look very dangerous in attack. Just because I have my eye on this game, I could see them easily getting to the final. I caught most of the first games with Denver, Underwood, and Des Moines Christian and Hudson. Denver definitely looks athletic. So does Des Moines Christian. But from the first round games, I would say Assumption goes all the way.
Back to the top for the Knights. Siebes, you got anything else to add?
Just like the second game, right? The bottom half of the semi, Bishop Heelan Assumption. That might be.
It's going to be a great game.
7-5.
That too.
Because Assumption's got Drew Dorsey going to Cincinnati. He's scored loads of goals as well.
Right. Yep. Scored at least another one tonight, if not 2.
Isn't it nice to know the brackets and know who's going to play next? Isn't that nice right off the bat to know?
Yes.
I think it is anyways.
Yes.
Personally.
It's a very good point from Mr. McPhee. All right, well, let's tighten it up, and we'll be back for some 2A recaps here shortly.
Thanks, Wes.
Yep.
Okay, and we're back. And by back, I mean at the Ultra Lounge on Birch Lane after spending most of the day in the rain in Ames. You would have seen us earlier, myself, Ben Brackett, and Blake Siebers, my co-host, hanging out with Weston McPhee, who is actually also with us tonight in the Ultra Lounge. Weston, hey, what's up?
Hey, I'm excited to be here.
My new left back instead of Blake Siebers for the evening. Welcome to the squad. My Titan tactician here playing center back, Matthew, leading us through a little girls soccer conversation. Thanks for joining us.
A lot of action today. It was good.
Happy for you that you didn't have to stand in the rain earlier in the day, but you stuck it out much longer than I expected. So kudos to you and bringing in a rain jacket.
Thanks.
All right, so let's talk 2A. We talked about 1A in the rain. We had Waverly, Shell Rock, and Indianola in the top end of the bracket, and then we had Independence and Adele DeSoto Minburn. And then on the bottom side of the bracket, we had Dow Center Grimes against Pella, and then we had Xavier against Bondurant Farrar. Guys, at least if we're kind of looking for a theme between 1A and 2A, it was goals, goals, goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not necessarily in like a great way. It was some lopsided soccer.
Yeah. I mean, really the only close game in that 2A matchup was ADM and Independence, right? At 2-1. So that was the one we actually took a little lunch break and we were watching over lunch at what's that place called?
Cafe Baudelaire.
That's a good place. I like that.
It was a good spot, and we just that's the beauty of the state tournament and this part of the year is we're able to watch and stream all the games live, and so we can kind of keep everything dialed in all day.
Yeah. Otherwise, it was just blowouts after blowouts in 2A, right? Waverly Shellrock 5-1, DCG 5-0, and then the absolute
Thrashing, I think.
Yeah, thrashing non-contest was Xavier 10-0 over Bondurant. And it was like, I mean, they could have ended the game earlier, but it was...
Yeah, unlucky for Bondurant Farrar as far as running up against a tough opponent. But that's what the state tournament's all about, right? You prepare for this big event, and you get one little opportunity. So, Weston, before we go too far into this, talk about the weather real quick and just like, I don't know. I mean, it's chilly. You showed up properly with like boots and like the whole deal.
Yeah, I know from being on grass fields and things like that, especially the rain amount that we had today, it was going to be sloppy. It was going to be muddy. The ball stuck to the grass a little bit early on, and then later on in the day, when they were putting balls through, it would skip almost like it was wet turf. Kept rolling and running a little far, and I think with the weather, we could tell that the players were also, it was dragging on them. They were getting tired faster, a lot more walking than what I expected in this tournament.
You heard me say that a couple times, right? Like, man, everybody's walking.
Yeah, a lot more almost 1v1 scenarios and not, team movements together, and not a lot of defending as a unit. It's more like, oh, we're just going to 1v1 and see what happens to this ball. Oh, it comes near me. Okay, now I'm going to react, or maybe I won't react.
Well, I wonder how much of that is just like, it's a big occasion, different surface, something new. I don't know, Matt, you're shaking your head. I know, because I know you were frustrated. You were frustrated with the surface, right? Because you look at that. You play. How many times, did you play on grass this year?
Once. The conditions change everything. They change all the games. I think they actually bring all the teams closer together in terms of parity.
That's true. I agree with that.
Because I think it's such a dramatic change. And have you ever tried to run in the water?
I have this really weird dream where that happens sometimes.
So you know how you're just like, and
right.
but literally, I mean, that's to me when you put a surface where you got 3 inches of grass and a ball, and then players like trying to run through the grass, and then the ball is getting stuck in the grass or sometimes skipping. The conditions just they change everything, and especially when you're used to playing on turf and you just get this true bounce and this true roll, and everything's rolling. Like true for you. I think it's created a lot closer games than we would have expected. We just ended watching, well, I guess we're not to 3A yet, but for all the games we watched today, the conditions played a huge difference. Those were games that were like unrecognizable to me compared to like what I had seen in the girls' soccer throughout the year. So it was interesting. It was very interesting.
I agree. And I don't know. I mean, just the grass to turf comparison, and it's interesting. I think interesting because
it's not only just grass to turf. It's like the grass is really long.
Yeah,
the grass is really thick.
And
and then it was wet. Thank goodness it was wet though. I'll wonder what the games look like on Thursday if it's dry. I think you're going to see the game will slow down even more. It'll be a different game too.
Well, if our weatherman was here, he'd tell us that there's a chance of rain on Thursday, but
okay.
It's not likely. It looks like maybe it'll hold off. So, but he's not here, so we don't know that for sure.
Interesting.
So let's talk about these results a little bit. I mean, obviously the field play is always going to make a difference. The conditions are always going to make a difference, but everybody's playing under the same situation. So your point to the parity is well taken, I think. And I started to say earlier that we're old, and if you think about it, the types of surfaces that you've played on, being 20, 25 years removed from the game, 15 at least, 20 perhaps, whatever. All these different, you're far away from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were playing on grass, we were playing on dirt, we were playing turf was like a absolute luxury. So now that's like the norm. I think that these people just don't know how to necessarily plan all the different surfaces, right? Like we were talking about footwear today, right?
Yeah,
What would you
right.
What would you have been wearing?
I'm
wearing studs on a day like today, 100%. I've got my metal hard ground or soft grounds in. I'm ready to rock and roll.
The problem is the surface is so thick, though, right? On a day like today, like as wet as it was, if you've got shorter grass that's not as thick, you absolutely are wearing studs. But I really didn't see many players slipping today because I think the grass was so thick it caught you. The grass is too thick.
Defending was different. Running with the ball was different.
Yeah.
Like we talked about, we didn't see hardly any slide tackles when there needed to be.
Oh, I love that. We have to talk about that today.
We do have to talk about slide tackles.
Yeah.
If you were in the Final Four, this is going to sound incredible. I couldn't imagine myself ever saying that except for watching today. After watching all the players playing turf, right, for all season long, including the team that I coached. We had one or two girls go to ground, only because they weren't thinking about it, and they ended up with a big old
you get the raspberry,
strawberry, raspberry, whatever it's called, on your
whatever degree level burn.
Right, but now you got wet grass, and it was like we saw very few players go to ground. And in a game in some of these games like that we saw today, I would love to see players going to ground, especially when you're inside the box and it's you 1v1 versus the goalkeeper. Because there were a lot of these goalkeepers that spilled the ball, or it feels like you could just get there a little bit more. But I would go out to those lead fields tomorrow, and maybe you just go off the if you're in the semifinal, and I would go practice slide tackles.
Oh, that's an amazing
I can't imagine myself saying that in any other circumstances than this, but go to ground and go win some of these 50-50 balls. I think you're gonna score because of it.
And I wish I could show a good example of this on video or something, but it's there's a ball between two people and you're both running, and maybe you're a little bit behind, but if you throw your body at it and you slide at them and you do it safely, obviously, right? Studs are down, you're not 2-footing it, anything like that, but you're still getting there first because of your willingness to throw your body at them, and usually you win it, you pop up, and off you go, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, we just didn't see it, and there were so many times I'd see that happening, I'd be like slide, and
but you won't
keep their feet.
You don't do it anymore because you're on turf.
I have paid the price for that in my day. And those little black beads don't feel good when you're picking them out with tweezers, but it'll be interesting when you compare that with the boys too, because they'll be playing on the turf, and when it's wet, the turf, you can kind of get away with a slide here and there, but the dry turf's no fun, and that's what they'll be up against. It'll be interesting to see how many turf burns we see tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a thought. The slide tackling, it does sound like such a Hoosier approach, right? Kick it hard, get in those tackles, slide at them.
But going off of that too, we saw so many goals today inside the penalty box, inside the 6-yard box, with no urgency to defend. They're just standing there hoping something good happens for them, and just a lot of. I just didn't see a lot of urgency that I.
Well, then let's just transition from that, because that's a good point as far as urgency goes. Dallas Center Grimes 5-0 over Pella. DCG going for a 4-peat. They've definitely got a little urgency to their game, and Pella couldn't match it. And then they will end up playing Xavier, who 10-0 mercy rule. I don't know what we call that with Bondurant Farrar, but they suspended the game after going up 10-0. R.I.P. Bondurant Farrar. That's a tough way to go out, but Xavier obviously making a statement.
Yeah. Yes, big statement. And by the way, before you get to that, I'm going to change the direction a little bit.
Weird.
Remember in the last pod we were talking about 4-peats for DCG?
Yeah.
So we got some intel.
Great. No, that's a
on-
perfect segue. Well
Yeah.
done, Matthew.
We got some intel on what some of those victories, the state championships.
So
look
DCG
like.
playing for a 4-peat
Right. So Valley's got a 4-peat in 05
from
to
05 to
08.
08.
This is girls'
That's-
side, I think,
yes,
right?
girls, definitely not boys.
Assumption's got a 4-peat from 2011 to 2014. Then Xavier, right, who won 10-0 today, has got an 8-peat.
Good Lord.
8-peat from 2006 to 2013. And so in
then
two of
Assumption
those
also a
years,
4-peat.
Dan James would have lost two of those games in the 8-peat. So, so we've got Xavier versus Dallas Center Grimes.
Pretty competitive
And-
bottom end of the bracket. I like it.
Yeah, and so let's just think about this, right? So Dan James now on his way to what he hopes is a 4-peat. I mean, maybe that's one of the he just kind of does the favor back to Xavier, right? Where he gets his 4th on his way to 8 or 9 of them. You never know. But I mean, that's kind of an interesting statistic.
Yeah, did you catch either of those games, Wes? I know you did, but
I caught a little bit of the Dallas Center Grimes Pella one. I was really only looking at their defense part.
Pellas or DCGs?
DCGs. I was, I know of the goalkeeper there, so I was kind of paying attention of how she was playing, and didn't have a lot of action today, but I do know DCG is very strict in their 3-5-2 type of shape, and I know I've mentioned before in the past that I really like how they stick to their shape, and it's very familiar to a lot of the teams in the collegiate level that play that 3 or 5 back, and they've really adapted well, and they're potentially going for 4 in a row. So it's working for them. So
Well, let's just talk about the one small disappointment today based on the weather. Coach James and his staff did not wear their outfits or their shoes that the girls picked for them. They kept those safe and dry. You did not talk to Dan about this. I did. I
didn't. I
get
didn't
the
know about
exclusive. I was like, "What's up with the outfit?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a rainy day today. When it's raining, we don't mess around. We don't mess our stuff up." So I'm just excited that we get another time to hopefully see what
he
the
was
girls
out there
are
in
dressed
shorts
in.
though. Brave
Yeah,
guy.
of course he was.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. My socks were wet, my shoes are wet. The grass was even longer off the side of the fields. The porta potties in the bathrooms were like 50 yards away.
Tell us how you really feel, Matthew.
Well, there's a parent that came up to me and just says this is what is this? I hate to be too critical, but the atmosphere was not the same as it is at County, right? So it was cool. There were fans that came over and stuff, and it was a fine atmosphere. But I will tell you that when you have the girls and the boys events in the quarterfinal at County or in the same location, and in Des Moines, and it's not just that we live in Des Moines; it's central, so everyone can get there. But today we were further north, we were a bit further away, so I don't think we had the fans that actually travel there. Maybe the associations can shoot holes in this and say that the gates were actually better or whatnot, but the atmosphere just didn't feel the same. I mean, that day at County, and I went both of the associations. Like when these contracts run out, you got to get both these associations back to the quarterfinal day at the same location and figure that out, because it is the best day in soccer. And
It's pretty cool.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Isn't that the saying? Like, that was so good. And so now all of a sudden we've had these two associations go in a different direction. And it's like, the boys are playing at all these different locations now in the quarterfinal, which, it just takes away from the atmosphere. And the girls decided to go up to Ames. And then now we got the boys that are going to go to Mediacom, and the girls are going to stay in Ames. And then they're going to play in these thick services in the semifinal, and then they're going to decide to go to the state-of-the-art Cyclone Soccer Complex. I'm trying to think of I equate this to holding the girls basketball championships in my driveway where I don't have a basketball hoop, but bringing in a basketball hoop for the quarterfinals and then moving it to Wells Fargo for the semifinals. You're changing the whole complexion of the game. We need some consistency in terms of how these teams play, so we see what happens. I think the surface and the conditions today totally changed things. And I get it's Iowa, and the weather plays a factor, and the wind, the rain, and stuff like that. But the surface, you can control the surface, and it's so different It is so different that it changes the game. So let's decide what surface we want to play on and what it want to looks like. Now, the alternative to that, right? If you're going to play devil's advocate, if I'm going to devil's advocate myself, it's like, well, just go win the championship. Like, why are you bitching and moaning about all these surface conditions and all this stuff? Just go win. The best team always wins. So, and I actually do think
Both points are true.
I
Valid.
do think in 3A that the best team today, like I know we're not in 3A yet, but the best team actually performed the best today. So we'll get there. But I've got some thoughts on that.
No doubt about that. So yeah, some talking points as we roll through the 2A slate of games here. A lopsided south end of the bracket, the north end of the bracket with number 1 Waverly Shell Rock, given the Indianola squad, who I don't know when the last time they made state, honestly. And I just found out today that Mike Wilson's first season as the coach was this year. I didn't know he was the coach. So I'm learning a little bit. And
I didn't know they did
yeah. But he lives down in Indianola, so that tracks. And Waverly Shell Rock, too much. Yeah. They won 5-1. And, if you check out the Instagram, they scored a great goal that our fearless film man was able to capture. So they'll advance to the semifinal, and they will play local squad here, Adel DeSoto Minburn, ADM, who beat Independence 2-1. If I recall, that was the game. Did that go to OT or no? No, it was 2-1 in regulation.
Yeah, that was the one we watched at the cafe. Yeah,
that's right.
Hey, by the way, in Indianola, both the boys and the girls are in the state tournament this year.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Which is impressive. Yeah,
I like that. Yeah, so anyway, semifinal matchup for 2A, Waverly Shell Rock playing Adel DeSoto Minburn, ADM. That'll be 2:30 on Thursday, and then DCG, Dallas Center Grimes, will take on the Xavier Saints at 2:45, back-to-back on Thursday. So let's go slide into the 3A, which is, honestly, when I woke up this morning and I was looking at the weather, I didn't think we'd be playing 3A today, honestly. Really didn't. But, I just figured we'd get lightning and there'd be delays and they'd just say, okay, well, let's come back. But that wasn't the case. All the comments we made about the fields, I think, are reasonable. But I would say, shockingly, they held up all day.
Well, that's what happens when the grass is 6 inches long.
Touche, Matthew. But they did hold up, and so we were able to get to 3A, and there were no the main mud problem was along the sidelines for the referees.
And the penalty spot.
Yeah. The middle of the field got a little bit,
sloppy
at the end of the day, yeah. There were no puddles and stuff like that, but yeah.
Well, and this will also be interesting because of the weather. The film broadcast feed, right, was taken from like a field level as opposed to a raised heightened level. I don't know what you call that, right? Like up in the just in the scaffolding or
higher.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
Broadcast level.
A broadcast level. Thank you, boss. That's why you're here, Weston. But I think that that would have made a difference in the way we viewed it, and instead it was sort of, I don't know, it was tough to watch because it was just like, it was like you were standing there except it was on TV.
Right.
Yeah. Lots of interesting challenges to put on an event like this. So I'm sure you're learning as you go a little bit.
Right. I mean, I would. I mean, it would have been nicer to see the camera angles higher.
I'm sure there's like a weather reason, or
but cover the camera a little bit higher. I mean, I don't know what the challenges are there. I mean, maybe it just was impossible, but you'd like to see in this day and age a good feed, even if the weather it's raining and stuff like that. But again, I mean, like let's just say we were at MediaCom, like you had a built-in camera system there, right? So I don't know. I guess they would have played it at County in the past years, but so
these are just all talking points. It's good stuff. Let's talk about these 3A matchups though. I'm trying to figure out where to lead you, Matthew, because I'm afraid if I take you to the north end of the bracket, you'll get fired up, and I know if I take you to the south end of the bracket, you'll get fired up. So
I love the 3A stuff, right? Because it's like I've seen all of those teams except for Linn-Mar.
Let's start there. Because you guys got smacked around by Valley a couple different times, and in preseason and during the year, and it was. I mean, that was a. I'll answer for you on this. Like when we asked you after those games, like how was it? You said Valley was physical. They were a handful,
Right.
like direct, and they were just kind of ran over you guys. It wasn't like they didn't crush you. It was just like 2-0 or 3-0, and you just like kind of weren't in the game.
They did that, and then we had massive goalkeeper errors.
Fair enough. So, and that goes back to sort of like some of our themes for the weekend, right? This is the goalkeeping, the fields, some of just like just sort of like the style of play, the possession. But we'll keep talking about that. But
Yeah.
I guess just to Valley Linmar 3-0.
Yeah. I mean, I
Like,
think that's
steamroll.
That's a shocking result, just because that
Valley's
Linmar's
the 2, Linmar's the 7.
exactly right. And so not to get ahead of ourselves, but I mean Johnston almost pulled it off against Centennial as well, right? Which means we would have seen the 6 and the 7 seed go through. I mean, this didn't happen, but Linmar 3-0 versus Valley, they jump out to an early 2-0 lead and go into halftime at 2-0 and then get the third.
Before we could even cycle away from the other game, that game had started.
Yeah.
And they were already, and Linmar was up 2-0.
Right. Good couple of first 2 goals, too. First goal comes in from a cross, and then so the ball comes at long cross, and it's a textbook header, actually, back where the ball came from, right, into the far corner. So, I mean, I can tell you I've seen multiple – this is just even from my team. Well, I mean, you told me I was going to get fired up. But when we played Waukee in the sub-state final, right, we had a cross come in, and our player tried to flick it on, do kind of a little fancy little touch, goes wide. You had the ball back where it came from. You put it in the back of the net. This Linmar player, and I don't know what her name is, she did just that. So ball comes in. It's a really good pass in. It's got some pace on it. And so she doesn't have to necessarily hit it very hard. She just redirects the ball back where it came from, and it goes into the far corner, and the goalkeeper never had a chance. And so Linmar goes up early 1-0. Then for the second goal, I think this is their leading goal scorer. I want to say Roberts maybe. She's got something like 40 goals in the season. She's kind of taking it left, and she just turns her hips and hits a bending ball far post, which beats the goalkeeper high and into the corner. It's a really good goal, and they're up 2-0. And then the momentum sort of just carried Linmar through. I don't know much about Linmar this year, other than that they've just been hanging around kind of in the rankings 6-7 or so. And we'd have to look at their results and stuff like that. But
Well, 16-3.
yeah.
Nothing to shake a stick at.
So you got to watch out for them. I mean, if the 7 seed beats the 2 seed 3-0, that's saying something about the seeding, right? Or did they just have a really good game? I don't know. But Rotich doesn't score in that game, and is not a threat to score. Pascal for Valley had to make another really good save as well. So Linmar as an attacking threat was really dangerous. And so that's going to be an interesting matchup now in the semifinal when they've got Centennial.
Very, very much so. Good stuff there on that, Matthew. So Linmar will advance as the number 7 seed, and they'll take on Ankeny Centennial, who squeaked out a double overtime, double penalty shootout victory over the Johnston Dragons.
Yeah.
It was just kind of back and forth all game. Like I sort of thought Johnson kind of had it there.
Well, they were up 1-0.
Yeah, and then
Right.
they were up 2-1.
So 0-0 at halftime, right?
I believe that's correct.
Within the first 2 minutes of the second half, Johnston goes up 1-0. I believe that one was the ball that went through the Centennial goalkeeper's hands. Is that right?
Yeah.
So shot from inside the box, just inside the box goes. No, and it was like kind of a cross in. It was a weird goal where you saw the Centennial goalkeeper go up and it just went right through her hands. So you probably chalked that one up to conditions. Just the ball's a little bit slick, I would think, and then maybe the goalkeeper didn't see it. But in any event, Johnston goes up 1-0, and I think I'm seeing Centennial quite a bit this year now, and I just think athletically they've got the better side, and they were pressing Johnston quite a bit. They were getting in behind Johnston quite a bit. So I think that goal comes against the run of play, but it creates a lot of momentum, I think, for Johnston. And then, I say that, but then it's not too much longer before Centennial equalizes. So they then get a
Right
goal
away almost.
Almost 5 minutes later. So it's 1-1 all of a sudden. And when you look at the first half, how there were no goals and Johnston scores, Yeah, 1-0. You're thinking, wow, that could be the game winner. So then it's 1-1. Then Johnson go up 2-1, and to me, it's the second goal is a typical Johnston goal. It's Lydia Liu, who is one of Johnson's strikers. By the way, I think she got stiffed on the all-conference selections because she's come through as, I think, a second teamer. For me, like, she's probably, I mean, because of how she played tonight, she scored quite a bit of goals like that. I mean, I've seen her against Waukee Northwest now get in behind defenders and score a goal. I watched her affect the game against us, where she basically takes the ball. I mean, she gets in behind us, just crosses it for an easy tap and finish. And then in typical fashion tonight, she finds herself like right in front of the back four, takes a touch in behind him, and then beats the goalkeeper and slots it in two. For me, it's a Lydia Liu-esque goal. It's how she scores a lot of goals, and she's really good like that. And she goes and she takes the team up 2-1. And so now all of a sudden you're going, wow, Johnson's up 2-1. There's less than 10 minutes left in the game. It's still 2-1. And then I would say we get a really good goal after that. And the reason I say it's a good goal is because Centennial's player decided just to place it into the corner. And we saw, I think, so many times throughout the weekend where
Sort of careless finishing.
you get close and your second to last touch is away from goal, right? And so then your hips are wrong and you're taking a shot, or you're taking a shot when it's just you and the goalkeeper and you're still 20 yards out instead of just finishing. And this one, I think, was it Balashitis maybe who got the second goal? I can't remember who it was, but it comes across, she controls it, and she just sides foot into the corner.
It was very.
And it's away from Delaney Forge, who's a very good goalkeeper, and she doesn't have a chance at it. So it goes 2-2. And then we go to penalties.
And, I mean, back and forth and back and forth. My only comment about the penalties, congratulations, Centennial, on winning. We just got to talk to the commentators, right, a little bit, and just like make sure they understand the rules and like how the whole penalties work. Because we were just watching this on television here, streaming it live, and it was making me. I mean, I think my mother, who is 71, probably would have done it a little better.
So I was less concerned about that, but I think the talking
it's just
point,
like the rules though. Okay,
yeah, well that's
sorry,
fine.
anyway,
But the talking point more so is because they can't do anything about that. Like that's just like they're just trying to figure it out, right?
All right.
But the real talking point is that Centennial shoots first, and who steps up to the plate but their goalkeeper. But the goalkeeper is a sub, so the goalkeeper has not played for 100
comes in
minutes.
cold.
And she's subbed into the game. And in the high school rules, you don't actually have to be on the field at the end of the game to take penalties, or I guess to be a goalkeeper. And so she comes on, and her first kick of the game is a penalty, and she misses.
She gets stuffed,
right? And so she actually hits it high. It's a hard shot, but then Ford just is able to tap it over the bar, and she's kind of like giving it, the whole fist pump and stuff like that. And you feel like Johnson's got the momentum. And then, so then you literally watch the Centennial goalkeeper like get into the goal on the line, being like, "Oh no, how am I going to recover from that and stop a penalty?" And then Johnson
helps him out a little bit.
puts it over the bar,
Gift.
right?
Or the first one was right at her.
First one was right at her,
to her hands.
right at her, and
Oh,
then
is
the
that
next
the one?
one,
And then
over.
the next one
Yeah.
over the bar.
So now you've just revived the goalkeeper.
The goalkeeper shooting in the penalty shootout is already like a bit of an anomaly.
It was
but
like
then
giving the
when you
goalkeeper
say shoot first, it's like what?
It was like literally resuscitating the goalkeeper after a cardiac event.
Oh man.
Like it was like you how does the goalkeeper recover from that if you just put it into the corner after that, right?
I know there's so many questions here, and I would love to hear from a coach at some point who has done this. Like I can.
We've seen it 3 times now.
I know it keeps happening. It's
Waukee Northwest a couple of years ago. Last night
on the boys' side. Last night on the boys' side with
Washington and
DCG, CR Washington, DCG.
who took the first one then? It was the goalkeeper scored last night.
Yeah.
So we've seen 2 of the 3 goalkeepers miss.
Yes. CR Wash,
Yeah.
stone cold. He was a stone cold killer. He nailed his.
Crazy. Now you also don't know what the coaches know. Maybe these goalkeepers.
Well,
are
have you
just
guys ever played? Have you ever played with a goalkeeper that's like just absolute money from the penalty spot? Because I have, and it's like you're just like, what is this? Like they can't miss, but then the question is like, do you have the calm persona?
Good word, Ben.
Thank you. To get up there, and you've done it a million times in practice, but then like like a field player, like you're on the ball game, a goalkeeper, like it's like, okay, it's sort of a foreign object to your feet. I don't know, it's just interesting. I would love to hear from a coach that's like, yeah, I definitely put my goalkeeper in this situation.
Well, here's the other thing that I think was really affected. I was thinking about this. How many shots did we see go over the bar? The ball is sitting up on that grass, right?
I know.
I mean, it's like teed up.
It is. It's like a cone.
It's like a drive, right? It's like you've got a tee.
And the last 3 or 4 penalties, the players were like, where do I put this thing? And
well, that's always the funny
ref
thing
had to be
too.
like, oh, you got to put
right?
it here.
Yeah, that's always funny.
It was all stamped out.
What do you do when you're in that? I mean, because you got to like stamp it down. You set it off the side, maybe. Like,
I mean, don't we see usually you guys just scuffing up the right before it too?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Talking points all the way around.
So it's Centennial. So all 5 shooters go, right? But also, Centennial was up. I mean, it was
3-1.
Yeah, 3-1, and then Johnson came back, and so after 5 kickers, it was even. The 6th penalty shooter, Centennial. I think it was. Well, the 5th penalty shooter, Gray, misses for Centennial. Ankeny makes. Then Centennial goes again. I can't remember who won it for him, but she makes, and then the Johnson player skies it way over the bar for the miss, and Centennial will go through.
It's a tough way to go.
So near upset, but it was a good game, and I think Centennial will feel, I think, lucky to survive that game after going down twice, after then giving away the penalty after being up 2. And then winning at 6. I mean, in the 6th penalty, they will feel very fortunate to have gone through. You would think, and so now they get Linmar.
That'll be interesting. Opposite side of the bracket, a really unique, I would say, matchup in the semifinal is going to be a little crosstown battle between Waukee Northwest and Waukee, the OG Waukee.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Waukee Northwest real quick. 3-0 victors over Bettendorf. The Bulldogs. I was expecting the Bulldogs to be a little bit more bullish. I thought the 8th seed was a little bit of a false. It just didn't match up, and then they've got one of the best players in the state, in Carson Bohanek. And so we were expecting, and she's been injured all year, we were expecting her to kind of come back and lift them up, and Waukee Northwest grounded out. And Bohanek was not quite the factor we thought she was going to be, unfortunately. I think that she's probably got a little work to do to get herself ready to go back to school and like get to work, but we know she's a player. Like, we watched her last year, and an injury can do a lot of things to a player. So tough to come back from sometimes, and you never know what else is going on. But Waukee Northwest neutralized her, and they were the clear winner.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think about that one, Weston, down there? You kind of kept an eye on that one a little bit, didn't you?
I was in the same mind as you, because I watched Bettendorf last year, and their attack was just so
strong.
Yeah. Every time that they were on the counter, it was like, uh-oh, here we go. And this year it was they were trying to do it by committee, and the committee strategy for them did not work. I know we watched who was the player we were just talking about?
Carson Bohanek.
Yeah, Carson had a huge chance right in front of goal, and we would, if it was last year, you'd absolutely put your bank on.
Well, it was like she hit the post first one, keeper saved the second one, missed the target on the third one. Yeah. And it was just like, there's no way that's the player that we saw last year.
It was already 2-0 at that point, though. Yeah. So for me, the bigger miss for Bettendorf was actually earlier on when it was Northwest, because Northwest went up 1-0, and there's a ball that gets served in from wide, and there's one of the Bettendorf players just kind of flicks it around the corner inside the box, and it just goes wide. Probably should have been a goal where they would have equalized. So that would have made it 1-1 in the second half. So they didn't get there. Then Joaquin Northwest goes down and makes it 2-0. Carson then has this really good chance where she misses 3 in a row. That would have made it 2-1, would have shifted the momentum a little bit, brought him back into the game. But then it's 2-0, and then Joaquin Northwest scores at 3-0, or scores the next one. Now it's 3-0. So I think it was a dominant performance by Joaquin Northwest, even considering some of those chances. There's going to be chances in every single game. And so if there's any team in all 8 of these that had a really solid performance tonight, I would include this in Linmar, who beat Valley. I just think Joaquin Northwest is looking like the favorite, and they've always been the favorite all year long, but they look good tonight. And like you said, you neutralize Bohanek, and because give some credit to them too. I mean, she still is a good player, but she just didn't show up. I mean, she just wasn't a factor. But they beat them 3-0. They're going to play Joaquin now, who they've battered earlier in the season. So it looks like they're going to be the favorite. They should go through to the final. And then it's going to be a question, do you see Centennial or Linmar? But I think that's job done by Joaquin Northwest. And it's looking like this is, if there was ever a year for Northwest on the girls' side, this should be it.
Well, let's talk about their semifinal opponent. I think we can agree that the Waukee Warriors, the OG Waukee, the south side of town Waukee, they're 10-1-6. That's 6 draws. So, they are a team that it can win, but they're not a team that they only win. They don't lose, though.
Yeah.
They've lost once all year, and that was to Waukee Northwest.
Yeah.
So I guarantee you that's going to be it's going to be some bulletin board material.
Yeah.
And I mean on either side of that, right? I think it becomes this sort of interesting battle, and it's super funny that the whole town of Waukee is going to drive about an hour north to watch that game.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, interesting game tonight, right? So Ankeny go up early 1-0, and so Lauren Knighty is the Waukee goalkeeper, and we've talked about her before on the pod. She's going to UW Milwaukee. At least that's what our sources tell us.
She's a unit. She is tall.
She's tall, but tonight, honestly, we saw sort of a chink in the armor, so to speak, because the ball comes in and she gets her feet. It comes in low and she gets her feet wrong, and I think part of it is probably the grass.
Yeah. But
she gets her feet caught up in the grass and she spills the ball right in front of the box. It should be an easy routine save, and Ankeny just walks, just side foots it and walks it right into the goal. So it's it's 1-0, and quite frankly, at that point in the game, it didn't feel like Waukee was going to score, and I don't know that they had many good chances, apart from the goal they score, but it looked like it was, because Ankeny scored early, it looked like it was going to be a real problem for Waukee. And I even said at some point, yikes, I think this might be, if Ankeny get another goal, it could be 3-0. But then you've got a Waukee player, I don't know who it was, she gets the ball about 30 yards away, takes a touch, probably brings her about 25, and then hits probably the shot of her life into the upper corner.
It's a great strike.
And she just whacks one in, and it goes in, and it's 1-1 all of a sudden. And then
it was a great strike.
It was a really good strike. So, and it was it was their best chance in the game too.
I'm trying to find who the
even though
player
it was from
was
30
real
yards
quick.
away.
It was a number 6, right?
Can't remember. But you go 1-1, and there's not a ton.
I think it was number 6, Tori Bowenkamp. I think so.
Okay. Well, great goal. One of the best goals of the tournament on the 3A side, and then you've just got they just grinding out. I would call it. It wasn't a pretty game. There wasn't a lot of keeping the ball and stuff like that. There was. I think it was a physical, hard game. There was a lot of kicking it and getting up the field and stuff like that.
So can I ask you a question?
What?
Well, so...
Yeah. Yes, you can.
What? So you are, like, just to clarify for everyone that's listening, the Waukee Warriors were who eliminated you all from the tournament, and you felt like you maybe were a little hard done by, maybe a little mistake here or there. Close game though, right? You felt even on the day. Waukee Northwest has lost once on the year. They lost to Gretna East, a team out of Nebraska. They've tied twice, and they drew you guys, which is shocking to me, right? As a team who doesn't score a lot of goals, right? Tied them, and then they tied Ankeny,
Right.
who's on the other right. So like, it's building.
Yeah. I mean, for me, so if I had to tell you who is the better team of soccer players, it is Waukee Northwest is way better than Waukee. Like, way better. It's not even a question. But the issue is you've got 22, which is Stella, I can't remember the last name, at the back, right, who you've got to get by her to score goals. You got Lauren Knighty, who's a really good goalkeeper, right? And then you've got a Waukee team who finds a way to score one goal in a game. And so if they can keep Waukee scoreless and they can sneak one, they can win that game still. But if they go down 1-0 or 2-0, I think the game is probably over. So Waukee Northwest should win that game. And they are, in terms of skill, they are better than them at 3-0. Like that should read this. The scoreline should read 3-0 again, in my opinion, if you look at the skill level for the players. But the conditions matter. Like, the grass helps Waukee without question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because it stops a team like Waukee Northwest from actually playing and using the quickness of the surface and of the turf surface to actually let the ball do the work. And so I think Waukee Northwest has got to find a way to stay true to who they are and move the ball, even despite the conditions. But the surface and the conditions bring Waukee closer to the level of Waukee Northwest, in my opinion. Now, I've picked a lot of games and I've been wrong.
But you're still alive right now. You're still alive.
But, if Waukee wins, I'll just say, hey, Dowling was just that close. even at 7-9 on the year, we were that close.
Well, so I
because,
just think,
by the way, we were hard done by that loss. I mean, we lost on a Stella, the
game
one
of
in
inches.
the back.
Game of inches.
But just for those of you who are watching this pod and want to know how we went out of the game, because I feel like we should have been there. It was a 35-yard free kick. It was an impossible angle. The ball went, almost into outer space and came back down in the field. And it just was one of those where our goalkeeper misjudged it, and it just landed in the goal.
Yeah, it's
and
such
so
a bummer,
that's
but
how
it
we
happens.
lost in overtime.
It happens.
But anyway,
It's definitely not
so
the worst goal that anybody's ever given up in overtime.
that's one of them. But I think it was a tough one. But I mean, for me, Waukee Northwest is the favorite, even though it's a crosstown rivalry. That's the other fun thing about it, though. Like, Waukee will be up for that game.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
They've got good players. JoJo Mulhop's a difference maker. They've got a player named Lainey Havlin. She's a good player. They've got this Stella at the back. They've got Lauren Knighty. So they've got the pieces to win the game, I think, on the day. But we'll see if they can pull it off.
Matthew with a great point. It will be fun. I
Yeah.
think it will be very fun. And I'm excited to see how that one goes. So it'll be interesting. The commentators on the TV, on the stream, were talking about how it would not be an all CIML final. So instead of a Valley...
Semifinal.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry. It sounds like we'll see a little Waukee Derby, and then we'll get a little Centennial Linmar. And who knows what we'll see on Saturday, but I'm sure it will be good. Should we talk goalkeeping like super briefly, just like in general? Because I think that was like a major key to the day, and then we'll wrap it up. We saw a couple really good goalkeepers.
Yep.
I'm thinking of the Bettendorf goalkeeper, who, despite giving up 3 goals, was like commanded her box well. She communicated. She had good hands. Sometimes as a goalkeeper you get hung out to dry, and that's just not your fault. But when you do the basics, of what's required really well, I think we can applaud that. And so, like, so what was her name again, Weston? She was. I liked her. She was.
So I was looking up the.
So
the
she was a
goalkeeper's
sophomore?
Name.
Maybe.
So they have 2 goalkeepers that have played a ton of minutes, and I wasn't quite sure if it was 34 or 36. But
I wasn't wearing my glasses.
Riley and Annie are both the goalkeepers. Annie has played more minutes this year, but
Well, whoever was in goal tonight, I thought did a commendable.
They definitely stood out
job.
to me as one of the better goalkeepers out there.
What do you see about so we've just seen some soft goals given up, right? Like how much of that is it poor goalkeeping? Is it interesting conditions? Is it nerves? Like what is it? Like what's going on here? So we've just seen balls go through hands, misjudged balls, and it's not 1A, 2A, or 3A. It's all the way through, and it's not just one team it's like it's consistent.
Yeah, but being a goalkeeper coach, that's something that draws my eyes. I immediately look at the goalkeeper, and we talked today about top 2 things that I look for. Number 1, bravery. Number 2, decision making. Bravery you can't teach. Same thing as effort. Decision making you can coach.
And we were talking about this earlier, Wes. I think that it's like the decision making might come. You might see that first. You can't judge bravery every game, like because you're not necessarily going to be put in that situation, right, as a goalkeeper. But it's like it's a 1 minute, a one moment. You have to is the goalkeeper brave? But like the decision making is like a huge part too, because a lot of times that comes into the bravery. Like, am I going to put my entire body on the line like right now? Is that a good idea or not?
Usually at this level, especially quarterfinal, semifinal, at the high school level, usually the goalkeeper is brave. If they're not, they probably shouldn't be a keeper, or that team is pretty bad. So, usually the first box is checked by the time they enter the varsity team. I would be shocked if a varsity coach let a keeper start that wasn't brave, or at least check that box most of the time. Decision making, though, everything goes into that. Your mentality, how you wake up in the morning, the weather, the type of gloves you wear, your warm up. Are you wearing shorts? Are you wearing pants? Long sleeve, short sleeves. It all that is a factor. But
goalkeepers are kind of
creatures of habit.
So this is what I was going to say is so then you've got somebody like Matthew here, who I'm guessing is no, you just got to catch the ball, you got to block the ball. There's
we talked about this.
It's
too.
pretty you just got to get in front of it. You don't even have to catch it half the time. You just got to get it out of there, right? Like that's just am I putting words in your mouth?
A little bit. I mean, here's my opinion, is that the goals that got scored today, and it's not even an opinion. I would, because I don't have the data on this. I've got a suspicion about this, but of the goals that we saw get scored today that looked like they could or should have been saved, every single one of them was above the goalkeeper's head, right? And so that is where, in the high school game on the girls' side that I've watched, my own team and then other teams, I think even including this weekend, is the most vulnerable, right? So this is the question I would ask. When the ball is shot from the distance, like wherever it is, if it's outside the 18-yard box, my question is, where is the goalkeeper standing in relationship to the goal line?
Because that's where I was going with this. I knew this was going to be your point.
Because my observation is, or my suspicion is that, and based on some of the film I've watched, is that if the ball is 25 yards away, a lot of times the goalkeeper is 2 or 3 yards off your line. Now at that level, it might be different at a different level where you can still cover the top end of the goal. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be off your line at all, but to me, the best chance you have at saving the ball when there's no pressure on the ball and the ball's outside the yard box is standing right at your line. You stand on your line, you judge the flight of the ball, and you come and meet it coming forward as opposed to going backwards. And so I would say, by and large, when goalkeepers get beat high, this goes for the team I coached this year at Dowling and all the girls I saw play, your starting position has been in advance of the line. So when there's no pressure on the ball, start in your goal line as a general rule, I think. And so that is what I see, because then you also are. It's also about time, right? The closer you are to the ball, the less time you have to react. So give yourself another yard, give yourself another foot, give yourself another 6 inches.
I just
The
remember
inches
being
matter. So that's my observation. So every time a goalkeeper gets beat high, I always ask, like, where is she standing, especially when the ball's outside the box.
And where, like, when somebody is shooting the ball, do we know it's happening usually? Like they usually take some sort of touch out of their feet.
Mm-hmm.
Their head maybe pops up. Like very rarely is it like a sneaky shot. You should be able to see this coming.
Right.
So like as you see that preparation touch, like if you're 3 feet, four steps off your line, right? Like maybe you should
Just back up.
Yeah. I just think that's like I recall as being a defender, if you're playing on the opposite side of the field and the right back takes touch out of his feet and he looks like he's going to hit a huge diagonal ball, you better get on your bike and drop off.
Right. I would suspect that like a goalkeeper like Lauren 90 for Joaquin spent most of the time very close to her line when the ball was in Joaquin's defensive third and there was no pressure on the ball.
And pressure the ball.
Even though she's tall?
You keep mentioning pressure on the ball. Why is that important? I know why, but why?
Well, I mean, if there's pressure on the ball, I mean, someone's going to block it. It's not going to go over your head.
Exactly. So this becomes then a challenge. Also, if you're a goalkeeper and this stuff's happening in front of you, instead of getting hung out to dry, standing on your 6-yard line, you can be bossing your team around to get way tight to the ball.
Yeah.
You can stand on your 6-yard. You don't even need to stand in the goal if you can organize your back four and your midfield. You don't even need to stand there. They won't get a chance if there's pressure on the ball. No big deal.
Right, and it's a little unfair to goalkeepers too to always blame them for being off the line because at the end of the day, there's no pressure on the ball.
Correct.
So some of these goalkeepers need to be a lot more assertive as well.
Well, and that goes back to, I think that was like our last little goalkeeping point because we've been talking goalkeepers.
There was only 2 that I heard all day today.
Like at all.
Using their voice.
And that was one was the Bettendorf goalkeeper.
Bettendorf keeper and the Joaquin keeper.
Yeah, 90.
Those are the only 2 that I heard.
And those would be the 2 top goalkeepers of the day, I would say.
The other thing I'll say too is like if you look at just the level of goalkeeping or just the amount of goalkeepers out there to choose from, not many kids want to play goalkeeper, and I get that. I wouldn't want to play goalkeeper, right?
Sorry, Wes.
But what an opportunity
is what it is.
if you're a female athlete and you decide that's a place you want to play, and you're 10 or 12, and I'm not saying you should pigeonhole yourself into a goalkeeper at that age, but if you start training and start learning how to do those things at a young age, you could carve out a really successful career just by focusing on being a goalkeeper. Like if you decide at 10, hey, I'm interested in this position, and I want to actually get good at it and understand my angles and understand where I need to stand and get good at communicating.
There's a kid that played in our futsal league, she was like 12. She was so good. She talked the whole time. Mm-hmm. She was like, every time she got the ball, she was so active. And I was like, that is a future real goalkeeper. It was awesome.
Being a college coach, goalkeeper is always a point of emphasis. Every year, we are always looking for goalkeepers. And I bet you 90% of all teams out there are looking for a goalkeeper every year. They're looking for a number of, 3-4 goalkeepers on their squad.
Well, I'd say
everybody is looking for a goalkeeper.
I'd say you heard it here first, but I feel like there's no way that's the first time somebody said that. But I think that's how we'll close it up. Like goalkeepers, there's so much stuff that you can do to improve. Just to be an elite goalkeeper, there's so many little details. Being a goalkeeper is so hard, but at the same time, so easy. Well, and we're going to leave it at that. I love it. Matt just kind of sits back and says, yeah, that's a decent point.
Easy to say for someone who's not a goalkeeper.
Hey, dude, I've got great hands. I used to love training goalkeeper when I was a kid. All right, well, let's get back to it. It's a late night. Today was the biggest day of the week as far as time goes. We'll be back tomorrow on Wednesday at MediaCom for the 1A, 2A boys. Make sure if you're still listening to us to hit that like, follow, subscribe button. Slide into the DM, say what's up. Come see us at the tent, the booth. We love it. Thanks, Weston. Thank you, Matthew.